So let's talk about Zion Williamson, because that is one of the more weird and underrated stories going on this season. I'm not going to say anything earth-shattering or groundbreaking. I just want to put my thoughts on the channel and just talk about some of the weirder developments that have happened in this saga. Zion has been out for all of this season so far with a fractured foot, and the timeline has kept getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. When you're talking about bigs and feet, whether it's fractures, breaks, or otherwise, you just take those timelines with a grain of salt. I figured it was going to be pushed back when they tried to say he'd be ready by opening day. I didn't buy that. When they said he would be ready by December, didn't buy that. And it just keeps getting pushed back, and I don't expect him to play this year, honestly. But that's not what we're here to talk about today, because honestly, the injury is not even the most worrying concern if you're a Pelicans fan or a Pelicans organization. It's that Zion flat out doesn't want to be a New Orleans Pelican. And since he's been in the league, he's displayed that. It's been well reported before the draft that he would have loved to go to the Knicks if the Knicks had gotten the number 1 pick in the 2019 draft, but obviously they didn't. They ended up taking RJ Barrett third, and we all know how that story goes. And there have been some more developments that just further show evidence that Zion is just disinterested in the Pelicans as a franchise and probably as a city, which is kind of weird because I think as a 21-year-old, you'd love to be on Bourbon Street. So newly acquired Pelicans guard Cj McCollum, who came over in a trade from the Portland Trail Blazers, made some headlines this week with some comments that were, quite frankly, alarming. And it's not one of those hyperbolic things or the thing people do where they overreact on the internet. They were truly alarming. So Cj McCollum was on Inside the NBA during All-Star Weekend in Cleveland, and he went on to say this.
Have you had a chance to talk to Zion about anything? Have you? I heard he was working out or somewhere else in another city. You know, that's obviously the missing piece of what you guys are going to do.
He's a big part of our future. Obviously, you know, we're looking forward to getting him back. I haven't had conversations with him directly. I've spoken to some people close to him and look forward to sitting down with him sooner than later. But I don't really. I know about as much as you do right now, but really? I'm going to get to the bottom.
No. Well, Zion, this is a dude who could get 25 a night easily. You better call him. You shouldn't have to call him.
And the fact that Zion hasn't talked to Cj McCollum, who is, by the way, no scrub or some bench player or some player who was thrown in a bigger part of a trade. Cj McCollum's a top 50 player, and that's being conservative. And he's also the president of the Players Association for the NBA. So it's not just some run-of-the-mill, no-name player. This was a player the Pelicans acquired to help boost Zion, and not only Zion, but Brandon Ingram as well, who has had an underrated year, by the way, as a player. He's really developed into a nice playmaker. But the fact that CJ had a tough time reaching out to Zion Williamson not only just sends off alarm bells, there's all kinds of red flags too, because it just further shows, with all the reports, especially earlier in the year, of Zion sleeping during film sessions, ghosting teammates. Basically, since his rookie year, his family, sourced reporting from The Athletic at least, has displayed wanting to not be in New Orleans and be somewhere in a bigger market. There's been all kinds of smoke around Zion, and I know people are going to rush to the comments if they catch wind of this video and defend Zion in the comments. I'll let you scream at the sky. I'm not even going to respond. But we should know by now, when there's a lot of smoke, there's a lot of fire. I mean, did we not just see all the supposed smoke and smoke screens that were happening with all the James Harden news? And then, what do you know? A few weeks later, he's a 76er. You can't take players' word at face value anymore either, because they'll say anything to have the fan base back them, and then they'll change their mind 6 months later and decide to go to another city, which is not a bad thing. I'm not knocking players who want a new situation. But the reason it's alarming is because the Pelicans made a lot of investment in drafting Zion Williamson #1 to lift the franchise, and a lot of lottery picks have had to do that. But Zion is already checked out, and I don't think it's fair to his teammates. It's not fair to new head coach Willie Green. All the stuff about also Zion being overweight and not taking care of his body when you're a professional athlete and you make your money with your body, that's also concerning. But I gave Zion the benefit of the doubt because, again, he's 21 years old. I did a lot of dumb shit when I was 21 years old, so I gave him the benefit of the doubt there, but all these reports that are just coming out about Zion being disinterested, and then the cherry on top was yesterday when JJ Redick, who was Zion's teammate in his rookie year, recently retired NBA player JJ Redick, went on First Take yesterday and then dropped this.
Oh, this is definitely something. This is a little bit insane to me. There's a general sort of decorum of behavior that you should apply as a teammate. Look, I wasn't the best player on any team I was on, but if there was a buyout possibility, if there was a trade possibility, I would always reach out to team. I called Ersan Ilyasova, I called Marco, I called Wes Matthews trying to get him to come to Philly. Like, this just shows a complete lack of investment in your team, in the organization, in the city. I get that he's hurt and away from the team, but you just traded for one of the 50 best players in the league, a guy that's supposed to be paired with you. Reach out and say hello. This is a pattern of behavior with Zion that we are seeing again and again. And look, I was his teammate. I can describe him as a detached teammate. That is an accurate statement.
And this is coming from JJ Redick, who is one of the more respected players in the league, somebody who has openly talked about his displeasures and disagreements with President of Basketball Operations for the Pelicans, David Griffin. Not necessarily sure if it's a beef or not, but it's very clear that JJ didn't like how David Griffin did business in New Orleans, which is also understandable because I think David Griffin has done a terrible job with the Pelicans, aside from a few moves this year that may have redeemed himself a little bit. But that's besides the point. JJ Redick was a former teammate of Zion Williamson, had some very public disagreements with David Griffin, and is a well-respected teammate, and he's talking about how detached Zion is. He's talking about how he addressed this with Zion in front of the locker room. And from the video, it looked like JJ Redick had a lot more to say, but, you know, it's the sanctity of being in the NBA Brotherhood. He probably didn't want to say too much more than that. And so, later that day, it was reported by ESPN's Malika Andrews, the host of the NBA Today show, that Zion did reach out to Cj McCollum and contacted him. But the fact that it took this national stir a little bit from the media and all the attention to this particular anecdote that CJ dropped over the weekend, the fact that it took this much for Zion to contact a player who was specifically traded to boost the on-court fit of you and your fellow co-star Brandon Ingram, that's just not a good sign. And it's just very clear that Zion was just never interested in becoming a New Orleans Pelican. Now, I'm not going to sit here and make fat jokes or question Zion's love for the game because I have seen a lot of that. And I'm never comfortable with questioning a player's love for the game because, one, you don't know, but also I've seen Zion Williamson since Duke, and the plays that he would make, the passion that he would show after making a big play or a big defensive stop, that doesn't speak to me as somebody who doesn't love the game of basketball. I'm sure Zion loves the game of basketball, and I have no doubts he probably wants to be in a different situation that's not New Orleans. And I'm not going to sit here and defend the suits either in the front office. But Zion does have an obligation to his teammates. He has an obligation to his coaches. He also has an obligation to a fan base to at least at the very least, hold up his end of the bargain, which is make sure you're in shape, make sure you're engaged with your teammates because you are the franchise. There is different responsibilities that come with being the franchise player. And I'm not even going to talk about, showing up to work and you're contractually obligated, blah, blah, blah. I'm strictly talking about being a good teammate, being engaged with your team when you're out with injury. You're the franchise guy, and you have repeatedly had this firestorm around you about not wanting to be there, teammates having to answer questions. And by the way, the Pelicans have a pretty good amount of talent on that roster now. If you look up and down, they started off slow at the beginning of the season, but by mid-December, the Pelicans started rerouting the ship. Some players have been playing better since the new year, like Jackson Hayes. Jonas Valanciunas is still very good. Jose Alvarado should be getting a lot of minutes over Devontae Graham, and that hasn't happened yet, unfortunately. But, like, this team isn't bad or not dearth with talent. And I failed to mention rookie second-round pick Herb Jones, who has been fucking fantastic this year. And the crazy thing is, Zion has only played 85 games in 3 years, and I loved Zion at Duke, and I loved watching him to this point when he's been on the NBA floor. But at some point, if you're the Pelicans, who did not include Zion Williamson in the promotion banner or the email they sent out to season ticket holders for next year, might be time to trade Zion Williamson. And I hate for this to be the case, but at some point, the Pelicans are going to have to get value for Zion. Now, there have been talks that Zion might just forego the rookie extension and just take the qualifying offer and make him a free agent at the end of the 2023-24 season, which would be unprecedented. I don't think that's going to be the case. I mean, that's going to be his first big contract in the NBA, and I would secure it right away. But there is a chance, maybe, and nothing's out of the realm of possibility anymore. The 2010 decade and so far in the 2020s have shown that anything is possible in the NBA, so I wouldn't put it past Zion to not take the rookie extension and just take the qualifying offer. But even if the Pelicans do extend him, I would trade him at some point. You got to get some value for Zion Williamson. He's somebody who clearly doesn't want to be there, and unless like a miracle happens or the reporting becomes different over the next few years, I just don't see that changing even with the extension, because he'll just eventually leave after that. So it sucks, and it sucks for New Orleans fans because they have lost, Chris Paul, Anthony Davis, etc., etc. But at some point, you have to look out for what's best for the organization. And if I was in the Pelicans front office, I would try to trade Zion Williamson and get some value back, because what he has shown so far, it's very clear he doesn't want to. From the outside looking in, I'm just consuming all of these reports, listening to NBA media like you guys are. From the outside looking in, I think it's very clear that Zion does not want to be in New Orleans, and so the Pelicans should operate as such.